Hey guys, today I bring you this Radio Shack model TRC-502 mobile CB radio made around 1999 or 2000. This was the first CB radio that I got. I bought this on eBay a couple of years ago. In total I paid about 25 bucks for it. And I would be inclined to say that it was probably worth that because this thing is in absolutely perfect shape. Anyway, this is a really cheap CB radio, even for the time. Just really cheap, really simple, really inexpensive, probably really low quality compared to other CB radios made by companies such as Cobra, but it's also really small. This thing is tiny. I couldn't believe it when I took it out of the box. I was expecting it to be like almost twice this size. Really, really tiny. In comparison, here's my General Electric handheld radio. It's bigger in almost every dimension. This is a really tiny mobile radio. So, we'll go over an overview here. First of all, here is the Radio Shack microphone with it. And it looks like it has a grill here, but this entire thing is closed up. There's really no openings, but you might be able to see a tiny slit. Wow, this camcorder, this 7-year-old camcorder is so awesome for macro shots. You see a tiny slit right there for the microphone. And the actual microphone itself is probably the size of the microphone on this thing, probably just a tiny condenser microphone. But whatever. This radio costs like 40 or 50 bucks new. You got your push to talk button and something to hang it from, I guess. Radio Shack condenser microphone, custom manufactured in China for Radio Shack, a division of Tandy Corporation, Fort Worth, Texas, 76102. At least one nice thing is the microphone is connected to a standard 5-pin DIN, so you can use an aftermarket microphone with this radio. You got your 5-pin in there. I wonder what would happen. I've always been curious, but I've never had the guts to do it. What would happen if you hooked an XT or an AT keyboard up to that jack? Because as far as I can tell, it's the same type of jack and it would fit perfectly, but whatever. You got your volume control, which is also your on and off. You got your squelch. You got an LED channel display. You've got a transmit indicator. And you got your channel up and down buttons. And you got your mounting holes on the sides here. On the bottom, you've got a speaker, which looks to be a half-decently sized speaker. FCC stuff. There's the Radio Shack catalog number, 211702. In this video, we'll look at the catalog that this thing was shown in. 40-channel Citizens Band transceiver. 13.8 volts DC, negative ground, custom manufactured in China, and there's the serial number. This radio, according to the owner's manual, has a nominal transmit power of 3.7 watts. So I guess it's probably safe to say that this is a full power 4-watt radio. On the back of the unit, you've got an antenna jack, and you've got your power leads. And normally, or I should say originally, this thing had no power connector on it. It was just bare wires. And it did come with this fuse holder here, which is nice. And I soldered a cigarette lighter adapter on it so I could plug it right into a cigarette lighter. So yeah, and really that's about all there is to show. But we will demonstrate it. But yes, it is indeed a very simple radio. I'll show you the antenna I bought for it. So at the time I got this radio, I went to a trucker's shop in Calais, Maine, and I bought this antenna for like 20 bucks. That's all I had at the time. I would have liked to get a bigger antenna, but I wanted something small and I wanted something cheap, and this is what I got. And I needed something that already had all the parts, all the coax cable and everything. But you see it's got a decently long coax cable, which ends in this connector, which screws into the radio. It's a magnet mount antenna, very strong magnet in the bottom here. It's mounted on a spring, and it unscrews just like that. So I guess I would imagine you can get better antennas with the same screw base that would screw in there. And then this part screws off just like that, and you're left with this, and that's about it. So it comes off into 3 separate components. So small cheap radio, small cheap antenna. This would probably be the cheapest, or probably more correctly lowest end, because you can probably find, if you hunt hard enough, better equipment for less price. Probably the lowest end mobile CB setup you'll ever find. But at any rate, I'll plug this antenna in, I'll plug in this radio, and we'll do some listening. And to power this radio, I'm using something that you guys have not seen in 4 years. If you never watched my videos back in 2008, or if you have and you just forget, this is something my grandfather gave me with a couple of VHF marine radios a few years ago. This is a Newmar. Oh, it's a heavy beast. This is a Newmar model 115126 linear 12 volt regulated power supply. It plugs straight into 120 volts. It's a linear power supply as opposed to a switching power supply. So it's a lot heavier. It puts out a lot less power for how heavy it is. But a linear power supply puts out much cleaner power than a switching power supply, which is much better for radio equipment. I believe this power supply is rated for 2 amps continuous output and up to 6 or 8 amps surge. So a 2 amp continuous output at 12 volts, that amounts to about 26 or 28 watts, as opposed to a computer power supply which weighs about half as much as this and is a little bit smaller that can put out as much as 1,000 watts. But this is a heavy duty linear power supply. This thing cost a few $100 when it was new. I have no idea how old this thing is, but I do know this exact power supply is still being made today, and it retails for around, I think around $350. So it is definitely a decent piece of equipment. It's got this fuse here for a 2 amp fuse. It's got a power switch here. And it's got your leads here, which I already have something connected to it. This cigarette lighter adapter, which is what I actually got the cigarette lighter plug that's now on the CB radio from. I really have no use for something that plugs into a cigarette lighter and then provides 3 cigarette lighters, so I thought, why not take the plug off it, so then I can put that on my CB radio, and I can run this thing right into this power supply, and I'll be able to plug anything that requires a cigarette lighter into it and use it. Such as my Motorola bag phone, something else you haven't seen in a couple of years. But I'll flip the switch here, comes right on, and we'll plug the CB radio into this and give it a run. Radio is plugged into the power supply, and the antenna is connected to the radio. It's sitting on my computer desk. So, we should probably plug in our microphone. There we go. And we'll just turn it on. And there we are. And this thing is a really tiny LED display. Compared to the GE radio here, it's quite a bit bigger. But anyhow, it is on. You've got to lift it up. If you have this set on the floor, you've got to lift it up in order to hear anything because the speaker's on the bottom. But we'll go through the channels and see if we can pick up anything. I doubt we can because it's dark now, and it seems Skip from the States only comes in the daytime. At least you can hold the channel buttons to rapidly change channels. Turn the squelch down. No, I guess nothing's gonna come in. What I can do for you guys is do a sound demonstration of this thing. I'll hook up my Olympus LS7 recorder to my scanner again, and I'll transmit on this thing so you can hear what I sound like on it. And to show what someone on another CB radio sounds like on this, I'll throw in a sneak peek clip of the range test I've done between this radio and my GE handheld radio. Alright, I once again have my scanner programmed into channel 25, and the same on the Radio Shack radio. I've got my Olympus LS7 plugged into the earphone jack, and let's see how it sounds. This is a sound test of the Radio Shack model TRC-502 mobile CB radio made around 1999 or 2000. I just listened to the sound test on this thing, and I compared it to the sound test on my GE here, and this thing sounds a lot better than this thing. I think if you guys compare that to the sound test that I did on the video of this radio, I think you'll agree with me that this handheld radio sounds a lot better. Now, who knows if it's just because this is a really low-end mobile radio, or maybe this is a really good handheld radio, but at any rate, this thing definitely sounds a lot clearer. Another thing is, when I did the sound test on this radio, I had my mouth about a couple inches from the microphone. Well, in this video, first I did the same thing. I had my mouth a couple inches from this microphone, and it sounded horrible. You could barely understand me. So that sound test that you just heard, my mouth was a good half a foot away from the microphone to make it sound clearer. So yeah, this thing definitely does not sound nearly as good as a, I guess, I don't know if this is a cheap handheld radio or actually a decently made handheld radio, but it doesn't sound as good as it at any rate. But anyhow, this thing does have a standard microphone connector, so I bet probably an aftermarket microphone would make this thing sound worlds better. I forgot to mention, the TX light there lights up when you transmit. Now I'll show you what this thing sounds like, what the speaker quality's like, and I'll do that by giving you a sneak peek of the range test I did between these two CB radios. I'll show you the clip right now of the preliminary test I did just from the doorstep with this radio. I transmitted from this radio on the doorstep to this radio, which was in here. This is a preliminary test on the doorstep on high. Preliminary test on the doorstep on medium. Preliminary test on the doorstep on low. Between that and the fact that I have listened to skip on both of these radios, I would be inclined to say that this thing actually has a really horrible speaker compared to this handheld radio too. I hate to say it, but it's the horrible truth. Alright, I am now at www.radioshackcatalogs.com, which has to be one of the best websites in the universe. If you've never been there, I highly recommend you check it out. You can look at nearly every Radio Shack catalog ever made from 1939 until they discontinued the catalog in 2002, and they made special catalogs after that, which you can look at as well. But let's see if we can find this CB radio. I will start at 1998. We'll look at the index. So here's the 1998 Radio Shack catalog, and we'll go to CBs and accessories, page 60 and 66. So I'll just type in the link here and go to page 60. And here's some radios that look kind of like mine, but they're not mine. That's all the ones on page 60. Let's go to 66. And there's their handhelds they had in 1998. They all had rubber duck antennas, except for the cheapest 40 channel one here, which did have a telescoping antenna. It's the TRC-502. So if you're looking for a handheld radio, there's one that has a telescoping antenna. Alright, it's not in the 1998 catalog. Let's try the 1999 catalog. We will go to page 64, and it goes from 64 all the way to 69. There's a couple of handhelds. I've looked through all these catalogs so much, looking at the different stuff they had back in the day. There's another handheld with a telescoping antenna. It's the TRC-502 and it was new for 1999. So it's nice to see they were actually offering a new unit with a decent antenna. Even though it was their cheapest unit, for some reason their more expensive units had rubber duck antennas. But whatever, that's not what this video is about. Wow, I can't believe that's a Radio Shack radio. It's got an LCD display. That looks kind of funny on a unit like this. Here it is, in the 1999 catalog. The TRC-502. Mini mobile CB with up-down channel selector. Fits easily under dash of almost any vehicle. See, they had similar models at the time. The TRC-503, which had, I think, weather? Did it have weather? No, but it did have a priority switch for channel 9 and channel 19, and backlit knobs. So here's this one. Compact, measures only that, yet receives all 40 CB channels and provides full legal power. Phase locked loop tuner, uses a single crystal to synthesize all CB frequencies for reliable, accurate tuning. Automatic noise limiter reduces noise caused by nearby vehicle electrical systems and accessories. Dual ceramic filters for clear reception. Adjustable rotary squelch and volume controls. Red LED channel displays easy to read in low light or direct sunlight. That's not true at all. That display is so dim that it's absolute hell to read in sunlight. But going on. Transmit indicator, 5-pin DIN microphone jack, includes mounting bracket and microphone holder, and it was $50. Yeah, they can talk. This was their lowest end mobile radio, and I can tell now after comparing it to, of all things, a handheld radio, that it's definitely very low end. I found it again in the 2000 catalog for the same price as all the same stuff. It's also in the 2001 catalog for the same price as all the same stuff, so this could have been made in 2001. And in the 2002 catalog, the TRC-502 is nowhere to be found. It was replaced by this unit, which looks sort of similar, the TRC-511, and it appears they kept all the exact same information. Oh, it does have a priority switch for channel 9 and 19. But other than that, it's exactly the same and even has the same price. Well, that's about all there is to show of the Radio Shack model TRC-502 mobile CB radio made around the turn of the century. Without a doubt, a really low-end, really cheap unit, but I'm not really that surprised. This was made in an era when CB radios were already long dead. It was meant to be an inexpensive unit for $50. Radio Shack was offering much more decent units for more money back when this was being made, and I would bet that with a more decent aftermarket microphone, this thing might actually sound half decent. It's definitely not a CB you'd want to get if you're a CB radio enthusiast, because there's no way to modify it or anything, and a more expensive radio, even stock, probably puts out more power, has better modulation, and sounds better, and all that jazz. But for what it is, this was the cheapest CB radio that I could get back in the day. It's given me quite a bit of pleasure. I don't think I'll be using it really anymore, because I have my handheld unit now. It's more convenient, and, well, it sounds better. It has a better speaker and a better microphone, and overall it's just much more convenient for me to use, and I like it better, I dare say. But maybe if I ever have a friend who wants to keep in contact with me through CB radios, and he doesn't have any radios, he can take one of these radios and then I can take the other one. But at any rate, I think it's a fine and dandy unit for what it is. Definitely really small, the smallest CB radio I've ever seen, probably one of the smallest mobile radios, if not the smallest, that has ever been made. But I think for what it is, it's a fine unit. And that's all, and I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.